Hey there, fellow nature wanderers. If you're like me, you love spending time outdoors, breathing in that fresh air and connecting with the natural world. But at home, have you ever thought about what's in the products you use every single day? That's why I'm excited to share Apple Valley Natural Soap with you. Their handcrafted all-natural soaps are made with organic ingredients, essential oils, and no harsh chemicals. Awesome! So they're not only great for your skin, but they're safe for the planet. And they don't just stop at soap. Apple Valley Natural Soap also carries a full line of natural skincare products, including shampoos, body butters, facial bars, and more. All designed to nourish your skin without synthetic ingredients. You can't beat that. That's just awesome. Whether you're hiking in the woods or just winding down after a long day, their products bring a little bit of nature right into your home. And the best part? By supporting Apple Valley Natural Soap through The Nature Wanderer, you're also supporting this podcast. Just head to the show notes and click on the link for Apple Valley Natural Soap. So go ahead, treat yourself and the environment to something better. Your skin and Mother Nature will thank you. Now let's get on with our adventure. Hey there, wanderers. Welcome back to The Nature Wanderer, the podcast that invites you to slow down, step outside, and reconnect with the wild world around us. I'm your host, Paul, and today we're tuning in, literally tuning in, to one of the first voices of spring. Yeah, this is a sound that you're hearing around me that is basically a voice. It's my idea of, okay, spring is finally here. Very, very tiny little guy makes this sound. Very tiny amphibian, reptiles and amphibians, cold-blooded critters. Amphibians are basically frogs, salamanders. So it may get a little loud here for these guys, and I've got some angry geese in the background. They have some other geese going near them, and they've got some nests nearby. But they're even drowned out by the sound of these peepers. The spring peeper, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's who we're hearing here. I am actually in Orchard Park, just on the edge of town, in a little town park called Birdsong Park. But tonight we're not listening to the bird songs, we're listening to the peepers calling, the spring peepers. Can you guess where they got their name from? Yeah, every spring, this is what you hear, the peeping noise. So, anyhow, I'm at Birdsong Park. If you've never been here, I really encourage you to come. It is the evening right now. It's just a little after sunset, so we still have a little bit of light here, but that's when these guys are most active. That's where most frogs are most active. And you also may hear in the background, hard to hear anything besides the peepers. Hopefully you can hear me all right. But you may hear in the background, I'm hearing toads as well. Yeah, the toads are calling. They are starting to get their mating calls out there too. So that's where I am tonight, or this evening. I'm going to wander a little bit further away from the actual pond. Maybe it'll be a little bit quieter, although I doubt it, because this whole place is like a lot of ponds, a lot of wetlands. It's beautiful. They kind of designated this. They put this part of the town aside for this town park. Developers came in, they said, hey, we want to put this big development in, all these real big fancy houses, and the town says, well, you know, we're tired of all the developments, but we'll let you do it as long as you put aside X number of acres as a wildlife area. And so that's what they did. They put aside this area as a town park, and luckily they did, so that I can come here and enjoy the spring peepers. So if you've ever wandered near a wetland or a pond, or even a mild spring night, you can be in wet woods, they're found there too. You've probably heard this high-pitched symphony echoing through the air. It's a sound that can stop you in your tracks. I mean, literally, I've been walking along and it's just like totally stops me and have to stop and listen. So let me tell you a little bit about this little guy who is about the size of my thumb, and tell you a little bit more about him and why he's making this loud springtime peeping noise. So let's dive right in, not to the pond, but to the episode. Okay, friends, so what are spring peepers? Now, spring peepers, their scientific name, I always like to get that in, is Pseudocris crucifer. They're tiny chorus frogs, usually less than 1.5 inches long. They can actually fit comfortably, just one of them, can fit comfortably on the tip of your finger. I've actually held them on the tip of my fingers. If you look on the internet, you're going to find pictures of people with a spring peeper sitting on their finger. That's how small they are. These are really tiny guys. So they're less than 1.5 inches long. You can fit them on your fingertip, but don't let that size fool you. As you can hear, there's some of the loudest frogs out there. They're actually drowning out the toads. I'm sure I won't hear any green frogs. It's great green frog habitat here, and I'm sure there's chorus frogs in here, but not this time of year. As we get later into the spring and early summer, these guys will start to quiet down, and then you'll start hearing some of the other frogs calling. But for right now, these are the guys making all that noise. So, tiny little guy sure makes a big noise. They're one of the loudest frogs out there relative to their body size. They get their name from that distinctive peeping call. It's a short, high-pitched whistle that the males are the ones making it, and they're doing it to attract a mate. Females are quiet, they don't do the peeping, it's the males that do the peeping noise. They're the guy who does the loudest peeping, and they're the ones who attract the females. Now, when you get hundreds of them, or even thousands, I mean, I imagine there's hundreds or maybe thousands out here. This is a pretty good wetland I'm in front of right now. I'm just sitting here on the bench listening to them. But you get that many calling all at once. Wow. I mean, it becomes a full-on amphibian opera here. It's like I'm sitting here listening to the music of nature right now. Hopefully it's not too loud for you. Now, here's a fun fact, okay? If you ever get close enough to spot one, look for the dark X mark on its back. Yeah, on the back, they're kind of a tan color, a light tan color, and then they have this X marking right on their back. X marks the spot, that's where they are. And where you find them, they're not out in the water right now. I'm in a section with a lot of tall reeds, and these reeds are where they are. They're up on the reeds, they're tree frog. They have these suction cup fingers. They can actually climb up onto the reeds very easily. The suction cup fingers actually help them cling to those reeds and helps them climb up. And if they are in the forest, they can actually climb up onto the trees with those suction cup fingers as well. But anyhow, back to what I was saying, that X on the back, that is actually where their scientific name crucifer comes from. Crucifer actually means cross-bearer in Latin. So they've got that X on the back, a cross on the back. So that's where they get the name crucifer in their Latin name. Now, these little guys, like I said, they're tan in color. Really hard to spot. I mean, there's one right in front of me. I can hear him. He's pretty loud. But there's one right in front of me. This guy, I'd have a tough time finding him, not only because it's starting to get pretty dark out here. I mean, we are losing our sunlight pretty quickly here, but also because they are expert at camouflage. It helps them blend in. That brown and tan coloring helps them blend in perfectly into leaf litter, making them tricky to spot despite their loud calls. I go out every once in a while and I'll try to spot these guys. I'm not going to do it tonight, but I'll probably fall in the pond, and that probably make a pretty funny podcast episode, but I'm not going to do it tonight. But anyhow, they are really well camouflaged, but give it a try. If you hear them, go out with a flashlight, try to spot them, see if you can find them. I'm hearing another toad in the background. I'm hearing another frog mixed in as well. I think it might be a coarse frog, or it might just be another peeper. They are native to the eastern United States and Canada. So that's where you're going to find them. They are remarkable jumpers. Despite them being so small, like I said, 1.5 inches, okay, spring peepers can leap up to 40 times their body length in a single jump. Single jump, 40 times her body length. Whoa, that's a far distance to jump. Now, I did mention they are amphibians, so they are cold-blooded. So you hear them on warm evenings. Right now, it's probably about 68 degrees out. It's supposed to get a little colder tonight, but it's about 68 degrees, and these guys are loving this weather. It was a little bit cold the past few nights, and so I wasn't hearing as many. I was hearing a few of the really desperate guys, really brave ones getting out in the cold, but because they're cold-blooded, let me explain cold-blooded real quick. A cold-blooded animal basically gets their heat from their surroundings. Not like humans or mammals, we're warm-blooded. We get our heat from our internal organs. That's what warms us up. So you create fuel, you get fuel from the food you take in. Cold-blooded animals, they get their heat from their surroundings. So when it's cold, their body temperature lowers. When it's warm, their body temperature rises. And that's why when you see turtles, who are also cold-blooded, sitting up on a log, every once in a while they'll jump off that log, go down into the water. The reason they're on the log is they're catching the heat from the sun. Then they jump down into the water to cool off because they got a little too warm. So that's what happens with cold-blooded animals. They have to regulate their body temperature with their surroundings. That's why these guys didn't come out the past few nights. It was too cold for them. So tonight it's warm enough, they're warm enough, so they came out where it's nice and warm. So they're amphibians. Also amphibians, they don't really have a coating to their skin. So like reptiles have scales covering their skin, birds have feathers, we have hair, mammals have hair, so we have different coverings to our skin. Amphibians, no, they don't. It's usually a slimy skin. What it is they have to stay moist. Frogs, salamanders, they need to stay moist because they breathe through their skin. Yes, they do have a nose, mouth to breathe through, but they also breathe through their skin. So they need to stay moist so that they can breathe through their skin. So that's another reason we find these amphibians mostly around wet areas so that they can stay moist. Now, that's what an amphibian is. Now, spring peepers are one of the first frogs to emerge from their winter hibernation. As soon as the temperatures start to consistently hover above freezing, often maybe late March, early April, that's when they come out. Now, it is late April. It took a little longer. We had a extra long spring here, but yeah, that's usually early spring. They're one of the first ones out. They come out of their hidden shelters in the leaf litter and migrate to shallow ponds, vernal pools, marshy areas like I'm in front of here, and they're doing that to breed. Now, in the winter time, in the fall, when they're not breeding in the summer, You know, they are in, oh, I've got some insect hovering overhead. Oh, there he goes. I'm not sure what it was. It's getting a little too dark for it. But he actually, lost my train of thought here. Oh yeah, they will spend time in the woods more than near the pond. You will find them near the pond once in a while, but they like to be in the woods too. And they hide under the leaf litter. And that's where they spend their winters, which is kind of a weird thing. Okay, but I'll explain that in a few minutes. I'll get into how they spend their winters. But now, the males, they get right to work. As soon as they come out of their hibernation, they go into their pools and their wetlands, and they get right to work calling for females. The way they're calling is they inflate a vocal sac underneath their chin, and when the air flows over their vocal cords, it produces that signature peep that we're hearing right now. Now, one peeper calling solo is cute. When you get an entire pond full like I'm in front of right now, well, that's pretty magical and deafening. Yeah, it's pretty noisy here, and I've heard worse than this where I am right now. I've been to some ponds where I've been walking through, and I can't even hear myself talk at all. So yeah, they can get pretty loud. Now, each male, their goal is to outsing their neighbor. Yeah, it's a battle of the peeps. And for the females listening nearby, those songs are like a dating app. They use the calls to choose the healthiest, most desirable male. So whoever's making the best call, they're the ones who get the female. Now, preferred habitats for these guys, I think I've kind of covered it, but just go over it again. Wetlands, marshes, wooded areas near the water. Okay, so remember, they need to stay moist. They're amphibians, so they stay near the water. The females, they lay their eggs in shallow waters, and tadpoles hatch just in a few days. Yeah, it doesn't take long for the tadpoles to hatch, or I should say, the eggs to hatch into tadpoles. In about 2 to 3 months, these tadpoles go through their metamorphosis, their transformation into tiny frogs, and they leave the water at that point, and they continue their lives on land, once again, in the woods near the water. Now, spring peepers, they do have a short lifespan. In the wild, these guys, well, they only live for about 3 years. Some have been known to live 4 or 5, but on average, they only live about 3 years. So that's a pretty short lifespan. Now, you may be wondering here, why on earth are they so loud? Like I said, they're attracting females. Females are silent. Only the males are calling, while the females remain silent as they listen and choose their mates. Yeah, the vocal sac mechanism is what's making that sound. Now, the chorus volume, what we're hearing right now, it can get up to 90 decibels. Now, if you want to compare that, if you're not familiar with decibel limits, okay, comparison to a lawnmower volume, yeah, that's about 90 decibels. Now, they're peeping in harmony, which is pretty interesting because when they're calling together, like they are here in front of me, males will synchronize their peeps to avoid overlap and create a rhythmic chorus. So they want to make sure they're heard, not blending in with the others. So if you listen closely, you're going to notice they're not overlapping much. Of course, when you've got 100 or 1,000 out there, someone's overlapping at some point. Now, these frogs are mostly active at night. The reason that they're calling at night is so that they can make their calls louder and more effective than any of the other ambient sounds around them because they're much lower at nighttime. During the daytime, they got more sounds to compete with. Okay, now I want to get back to that winter survival. Okay, spring peepers, they don't head south for the winter. I mean, most frogs don't. That's a long journey for a little frog. What they do, well, a lot of frogs, they will burrow deep into the ground, and that's where they hibernate. Or sometimes frogs will go down to the bottom of the pond and they hibernate in the mud. So they're spending their winters where they won't freeze to death. Not the spring peepers. Nope. These little frogs, they just find shelter under logs in the woods or under the leaf litter on the ground, and they freeze. Literally. They freeze. Yeah, their whole system freezes. Spring peepers, they can survive being partially frozen. Up to 70% of the water in their bodies actually turns to ice. Their heart stops. They stop breathing. But thanks to a type of natural antifreeze in their blood, their cells don't burst. Yeah, that's how they survive. And then when the weather warms up, they thaw out and hop back into action just like nothing ever happened. Nature amazes me. Yeah, they've been studying peepers for this, cryogenic, trying to figure out, hey, is there something that we can do to start making people, go into cryogenics if they're sick and we can cure them in the future? And yeah, so they study spring peepers for this. I remember the one time when I used to work at Buffalo Audubon, at Beaver Meadow Audubon Center, we had a visitor come in. It was early winter time, and he came in and he says, I found this dead frog on the top of a snowbank. And we looked at it and it had that crucifix that had the X on its back. And what happens was we looked at it and it's like, oh no, this guy is not dead. No, he's alive. He's just frozen right now. And we told the guy to put him back, but all of a sudden the thing started to come back to life, and it's like, oh no. So we put him in an aquarium and we kept him all winter long in that aquarium and fed him, and yeah, so we kept him until the spring and then we let him loose again. But I remember you could hear him doing his peeping every once in a while. So this guy here, yeah, poor guy, this visitor disturbed his rest, his sleep. Now, how does this cryogenics work, or this cryoprotection? Well, as temperatures drop, spring peepers rapidly produce glucose, the sugar in their liver, which is then transported throughout their body via the bloodstream. The sudden surge in blood glucose increases concentrations up to 100 times higher than normal levels. So you're getting a lot of glucose in the blood. Now, glucose acts as a cryoprotectant, and it does that by lowering the freezing point of intracellular fluids and protecting cells from dehydration and ice crystal formation. Okay, so that's the basics of it. Now, unlike most animals, spring peepers allow ice to form in the extracellular spaces, but they tightly regulate it in order to prevent internal damage. Now, ice nucleation is what we call this. The ice nucleation proteins in their blood encourage ice to form outside cells rather than inside the cells. That way the cells don't burst. Now, as ice forms outside the cells, water is drawn out of the cells through osmosis. Okay, go back to science class or look it up. I don't want to get into osmosis right now. Causing the cells to shrink, but they still remain intact. Now, the concentration of the solutes, especially the glucose, inside the cells increases as water leaves the cells. This higher concentration inside the cells helps maintain osmotic balance and prevents ice from forming within the cells themselves. Okay, I know that's a lot going on here. Okay, now the process, this effectively stabilizes the cell membranes and the proteins, preventing the mechanical damage from the ice crystals. Now, with all this going on, the metabolic processes slow dramatically, with heart rate and breathing essentially coming to a halt. It's a state of suspended animation. Yeah, it reduces energy requirements to near zero, allowing the frog to survive without oxygen or nutrients for extended periods of time, the entire winter. Now, after winter, when it starts to warm up, okay, the recovery process, basically, as temperatures rise, the ice slowly melts and the frog's metabolic functions gradually resume. The heart restarts, circulation resumes, and any accumulated metabolic waste is cleared out of the system. The process, and this is incredible, this process, how it works. It amazed me that scientists found out how all this works. But anyhow, the process is so efficient that the frogs can actually return to normal activity within a few hours of thawing. So it doesn't take weeks, doesn't take months, just a few hours. It doesn't take long at all. So that's how this cryogenics, this freezing, so that they can get through the winter, that's how it works. Now, spring peepers, they're more than just a lovely soundscape like we're hearing right now, okay? They are important indicators of a healthy wetland ecosystem. Frogs in general, okay, they're kind of like the canary in the coal mine. They're very sensitive to pollutants and environmental changes too. So when you hear spring peepers, it's usually a good sign that the local habitat is doing pretty well. And this one's pretty clean here. They also play an important role in the food chain as both predator and prey. Yes, they feed on insects like mosquitoes, so they keep the mosquito population down, and are in turn a tasty snack for birds, snakes, and even larger frogs too. Unfortunately though, like most amphibians, spring peepers do face threats. Habitat destruction, pollution, climate change, these can all impact the breeding grounds. That's why protecting wetlands and vernal pools are very critical. So I don't want to get too depressing on this. So if you want to experience what I'm experiencing right now, I mean, this is kind of magical, this chorus here. If you're hoping to experience spring peeper chorus for yourself, here's what you need to do. First of all, you need to do it at the right time of year. Like I said, early spring. Go out just after dusk on a mild day, or evening I should say, okay? Especially after the rain, when it's wet out, that's when they really are active, okay? You have to head to the right habitat, okay? Look for wooded wetlands, so wetlands with a lot of woods around them, shallow ponds, temporary pools. These are all hot spots for the peepers. And be still. I mean, there's a couple of teenagers on the other side of this wetland. They're doing a little fishing over there. So they're making a little bit of noise, but hey, it's not bothering these peepers. But yeah, if you stay still, I've had where I've gotten close to the pond and they quiet right down. But if you're real still, I'm just sitting here on the bench right now, just listening to them. Once you're near the chorus, stop moving, just be quiet, and they'll just start calling. So they might quiet down when you get too close, but they'll start right back up again, as long as they don't see you as a threat. Now, before I wrap things up, I've got a challenge for all of you. Yes, I'm giving you a challenge this week. And this week, I'd like you to head out and listen for spring peepers. Find those local wetlands and see if you can, hear the peepers. This is the right time of year. I just told you how to find them. Different habitats that you should be looking for. And record a clip on your phone. If you can, record a clip of the peeping and share it with us on social media using the hashtag Nature Wanderer Podcast. Or you can, send it to me with a DM, or tag us at the Nature Wanderer. Let's create a virtual sound map of spring here. I'd like to thank you for joining me this week. I hope you enjoyed listening to me and the peepers. Hopefully you could hear me over the peepers. Yeah, these guys are pretty loud here tonight, but I think I was loud enough. I hope I was loud enough. But anyhow, I hope you enjoyed listening today to me and the peepers. Be certain to share the podcast with your nature-loving friends so that they too can learn more about the natural world around them. And if you'd like to support the podcast, I would love it if you did. visit the show notes for a link to my Ko-Fi page. Or if you want, you can also support the podcast by purchasing awesome items at my online merch store. I'm hoping this summer, when I'm not as busy, to get some new t-shirts and sweatshirts out there on the merch site. But you can go to my online merch store. All the links are in the show notes. If you like journaling your wanderings, I also have a link to my nature journals that I created myself, all created by me, not made in some other country, not created from some other place. I created these journals myself. So, but you can get those. All the links for these things are in the show notes. Well, anyhow, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Stop back next week for another episode of the Nature Wanderer podcast. Have a great one and keep exploring the nature around you. Hello, friends. I hope you're out wandering through nature, exploring the natural world around you. Do you enjoy writing about your wanderings? Nature journaling is an awesome, fun way to remember all the adventures you have taken and how you felt during those journeys. If you're looking for some beautiful journals to keep track of all your wanderings, I have several available on Amazon, including some guided journals for children. Start your journey in journaling by clicking on the link in the show notes. Keep exploring the nature around you and keep journaling all your wanderings.